we got to get to one of my favorite dudes because he's the director of Hard Knocks on HBO, their on-site director for a third season, Matt Dissinger. It is the Tampa Bay Bucks this year. Matt, it's Ross Tucker filling in for Dan here on the Dan Patrick Show. I'm doing great, man. First question. Did the Bucks volunteer for this, or were they picked?
They were picked. We selected them this year. Obviously when we talk to these teams, we try to get a measure of, the level of cooperation that we think we'll get here, and the Bucks have been very cooperative. So ever since we started talking to them, they've been open to the idea, and just went down, had the press conference there on Wednesday, and everyone with the organization was pretty great.
So does that mean that no one volunteered to do it this year?
Yeah, we didn't have a volunteer this year.
Okay, so then we have those different qualifications now where you guys get to pick out of that group. So there's, I don't know how many teams there are, and then you decide who the 3 or 4 most interesting teams might be, and then have conversations with them as to what kind of access you'd get or how willing they'd be to do it before you make your selection?
Yeah, it's something like that. I mean, it's above my pay grade. I'm the director of the show, but those conversations kind of happen at like an ownership level and a upper management level here at NFL Films. But the way I understand it is, we put a feeler out to all the teams. It doesn't have to be one of the teams in that list. And then, based on those conversations, however they may happen, we kind of move forward from that point when we, get an idea whether someone might have some interest or at least be, willing to cooperate, and we go from there.
Don't you have to be involved, though, on some level, Matt? Just because, your bosses and the owners, don't you have to, doesn't the bosses say, all right, we got 3 or 4 teams to pick from, Matt. Which one do you think would make the best show, has the best storylines?
Oh, for sure. I mean, we have conversations, but, it's not like someone's coming to me saying, all right, who do you guys want to do this year? So, we'll talk about it. We'll kind of discuss why we think, a team might be attractive and, why we might want to pursue them, and those conversations, I think influence how that decision is made.
Okay, so then why Bucks? Sell me on why you guys picked the Bucks and why I should watch the show.
I think you look at that roster, there's not a lot of more charismatic quarterbacks than Jameis Winston. I think that stood out to me from the beginning. I'm not sure that we've had, a quarterback on Hard Knocks before that's had that level of success, that level of charisma. I mean, being here at NFL Films, we wire, 4 to 5 players and coaches every single week. I remember his wire from last year of the dozens and dozens and dozens we've done, and it really stood out to me. And you look down the roster, Mike Evans, obviously they signed Deshaun Jackson in the offseason. We've done a lot of work with Gerald McCoy in the past. We know how good he is. We worked with, Dirk Cutter and Mike Smith in Atlanta. Those guys were great with us there. So there's a lot of positives for us. I think this is a team, too, that's successful. They're 9-7 last year, right in the verge of the playoffs. It's going to be fun to see, how a winner is put together and how they mature and take that next step. That's something that's attracted to us, for Hard Knocks.
How does it work, Matt, with you deciding which players you kind of want to feature for the show and mic up and have cameras travel? And then do you kind of have to ask those guys, hey, we'd like to have you be one of the featured guys, like the Kush guy with all the sleeveless shirts last year. That guy was
right.
Awesome. How do you approach those guys about being one of the featured characters?
It's funny. It's a long process. It starts kind of soon after, the team's announced. We'll go through and we'll research. We have a team of myself, my assistant director, Shannon Furman, and then I have 3 field producers, and we'll all sit down and we'll look at the roster and we'll assign, like, all right, you do running backs, you do offensive linemen, and we're going through, we're looking at, whatever videos online of these guys, and we come up with a plan. Now you take that plan, you might go in and say, all right, we have these 40 to 50 guys. And within the first week, half of them, go out the window, and then another 20, 30 dudes you didn't even think about show up, and you're like, wow, this guy's pretty interesting. The thing with Hard Knocks, honestly, is the best laid plans. You show up, and you might think you know what you're going to do, but it all matters what happens. So when you get there on the ground, that's when you really have to have your eyes and ears open. And characters, Kush was kind of on our periphery last year. It wasn't like we walked in saying, oh, he's going to be a star. But obviously he, I think, was cooperative. We found him to be really funny. I think the audience liked him a lot. So it's just a matter of being able to, read and react once you get down there in the field.
Talking with Matt Dissinger, he's the director of Hard Knocks on HBO here on the Dan Patrick Show. How often does a coach or a GM or somebody ask you to turn the camera off, or maybe even a player if it's a really tough moment for them?
I mean, there's been times, I think, where we know someone needs a little bit of privacy. But what we really operate on and what we say is, like, look, we know there might be stuff, maybe it's personnel discussions or whatever. Like, let us film it, see how we're going to present it. We're not in the business of making anyone look bad. We're NFL Films. We're here to promote the game and promote the teams. So anything we do, we do with that in our minds. We obviously have a relationship with the Buccaneers like we do the other 31 teams. And we ask that, hey, let's just see what we're going to be up to and, make that decision later. We're sensitive to what they're sensitive to. And most of the times the things they're sensitive about, we're not really interested in terms of, things we put on air. X's and O's stuff has been something that we've been the primary focus. Last thing on earth we'd ever want is for someone to do Hard Knocks and for them to have a competitive disadvantage because of that. So we're always looking out for that kind of stuff. But then again, our audience, I don't know that they're really looking to hear what play calls, the Buccaneers are going to do. I think they're more interested in these, human interest stories, which is what I think we pride ourselves on.
Last one I have for you, Matt, is I think the one thing I would hear people say is, man, I've seen the rookie get cut now a million times. I've seen the one rookie make the team. How do you keep it fresh?
It's something that I get asked a lot, and I think the answer to that is, look, training camp is training camp. It can be very monotonous. It can be boring. But every year, every team has a different set of personalities. There's only one Jameis Winston. There's only one Mike Evans. There's only one Eric Kush from last year, or Austin Hill. And yeah, all the beats are going to be the same. It's training camp. But I think the personalities and the guys you get to know, they present you with a different story. I think you understand what it's at stake. And every year it's something different. Who knows? Maybe it's a guy that's been in the league for 10 years, and maybe it's make or break time for his twilight of his career. And then maybe it's the guy that was undrafted 3 years ago, and it's his last shot. Every year it's a different set of circumstances, and it's a different set of characters. And I think the best way to confront how do we make this fresh is like, well, let's find the most interesting guys in this team, and let's get to know them as best as we can.
Matt, really appreciate the time. Thanks so much, and looking forward to the show. When's the first day?
Well, the first episode airs August 8th. It's a Tuesday. We're on the ground starting in late July there, about a week before training camp opens up for them.
Matt, thanks so much.
Thank you, guys.
There he is, Matt Dissinger, the director of Hard Knocks on HBO. I still remember my rookie year watching the first ever Hard Knocks. It was the Baltimore Ravens coming off the Super Bowl.
Siragusa, Shannon
Sharp, Billick. They signed and cut Tim Hasselbeck. They had that quarterback from Arizona, Ortiz Jenkins, that was just terrible. Randall Cunningham was still in the league. So for me, though, I was a rookie living it at the time. So I was watching it to see what it was like when guys got cut and stuff. I watched every second of every episode that first year.
The Dan Patrick Show, weekday mornings on Audience.